Hi guys, a very good afternoon. It's 5:30 p.m. sharp. Uh, Again, as you know, this is the timetable, right? The timetable is what? Let me just have it cross-checked, double-checked. But the timetable is 5:30 to 5:40, asking questions and recapping. 5:40 to 6:55, I will teach. We'll do the first round of teaching. 6:55 p.m. to 7:05 p.m. we have a break. Sharp 6:55 we'll take the break. Then 7:05 to 8:20 we have the teaching round 2. And finally 8:20 to 8:30 will be the overall review and recap. Okay, so as you know, it's 5:31. We looked at a couple of things, right? Who can tell me what is expectation gap? Pushkal, I'm seeing you for the first time. Were you there in the last class? Pushkal Shekha.
No, sir. It's my first time.
Did you watch the recording or no?
Yes, I watched, but not all.
You haven't watched the entire recording. Make sure that whenever you attend a certain class, you watch the previous recording because it will definitely help you. Okay, who can tell me what is expectation gap? Again, guys, type it at least. Who can tell me what is expectation gap? What is expectation gap? Beneath, you can tell me. Beneath, are you there? Type it. What is expectation gap?
आम्ही 6 भाई इंक्लूडिंग होस्ट आंसर दो मुझे
Okay, Beneath, are you there? Anil, are you there? Expectation gap, Asmeet, is the difference between what is expected by the auditor and what the auditor will really do. Very good, Asmeet. That's absolutely right. Guys, please make sure that if you are sitting in a live class, you have a proper internet connection. Because again, this is not a movie. If you want to actually get fruitful results, you will have to attend it like a proper class. Whether it's live or recording, I don't know. But you'll have to sit with notes, you'll have to study and come. Otherwise, we really cannot help you. And every week we will have a test. Every Friday, there will be a mandatory test that you have to write. So please make use of all this. 10 minutes, I'm asking you questions so that you study and come. Otherwise, there's no point. Otherwise, there's literally no point of having this pre-batch, because ultimately, if it's not going to help you, then what's the point? So please make sure that you are studying and coming, and when you are in class, you are sitting like you are in a class. Anil, can you tell me what are some differences between reasonable assurance and limited assurance? Differences between reasonable assurance and limited assurance. Who can tell me what this is? How many of you are here? Please let me know. See, guys, if this is just.
I am here.
Babin, have you watched the recordings before?
No, I am first time attending today.
Fine. External audit is example of reasonable, but what is reasonable assurance? What do we mean by reasonable assurance?
Reasonable, it's giving accurate, not
But again, I'm asking those who've attended. Who can tell me what is reasonable assurance?
as we know, audit is not accurate way of giving. So
What about others? Even in limited assurance, we gather sufficient evidence. In reasonable assurance, we gather sufficient appropriate evidence to get a reasonable conclusion, have more confidence. It is positively worded. In limited assurance engagement, again, we gather sufficient appropriate evidence to make a reasonable limited conclusion. Yes, Asmeet, that's right. Very good. And in limited assurance engagement, it is negatively worded and only gives you a low or moderate level of assurance. We have 2 more minutes before we start. Please go through these things that you've written in your notes. We will start again because we follow very strict rules about the timing. So before 5:40, I cannot start. So please go through. Go through all these old things. Again, what is expectation gap? Expectation gap is the difference between what the auditor can do and what people might expect from him. For example, again, this is all done in the previous class. Anyway, now, today we're going to look at what? 5:40, it is 5:40 p.m. sharp. And in the last class, I had explained who appoints the auditor. And it's 5:40 p.m. sharp. And we will start from who appoints the auditor. We've done that already. Who appoints the auditor? It is the owners who appoint the auditor. But in the absence, probably if the owner has not appointed, the director will appoint, and it needs to be approved by the owner. No, review engagement for small companies, Ashmit, it is not necessary to get their financial statements audited. So it is not mandatory by law for small companies. They voluntarily choose to do a review engagement just to make sure everything is fine. Okay, now we're going to look at removing the auditor. Okay. Remember, you're doing audit and assurance, and you will be an auditor in the future, right? So you need to know how people can remove you from your place, from your position as an auditor. Right? And removing the auditor is not as simple as removing any other working professional in your organization. Okay. Now, number one, you remove the auditor, or you can remove the auditor when, say, for example, you feel that the auditor is not having the ability to audit properly. For example, I talked about, again, your friend, say this is my bedroom, okay, and in my bedroom, I feel there is a cockroach. This is a cockroach. I feel there is a cockroach. So what I will do, I will appoint an auditor. I'll appoint an examiner. Remember, auditor is an examiner who will go and investigate and come and give me what? Come and give me assurance or confidence. But if this guy goes inside and he himself is scared, what will I tell him? I'll tell him, you come out, you don't know, you are also scared. Correct? So I've removed him from the job of examining, from the job of investigation, from the job of checking. Why? Because I have doubts now that he himself can take care of the auditing. He himself might not be able to investigate properly. So, again, auditors can be removed if there are doubts about their continuing abilities. They may not be able to continue. Okay. That is where the auditor can be removed. So again, even in a powerful position of being the auditor, you can be removed if there are questions about your abilities. So please make sure, whether it's a class or whether it's work, you are always doing your best. Right? However, they need to give you a notice. They cannot just come one day and tell you that, okay, you are removed as an auditor. No. A notice will need to be given, just like in office when you are working there. Generally, a 1 month notice is given to the staff that works in the office. Same way, even for the auditor, a notice is given to the auditor. The notice is given to the investigator, right? So that people cannot just remove you, the auditor, at just any point of time randomly. That cannot happen. They will give you a notice. Now, remember, audit itself, an auditor himself is somebody who is in a powerful position. What do I mean by that? If you are a normal person, a working professional, I can remove you. Simple. I will fire you. And that's it. I've removed you, I've fired you. End of story. But auditor is an examiner. Remember, I told you, auditor is an examiner. So, again, you have a level of what? Power. Right? So, the auditor can circulate or can ask permission to explain why he should not be removed. For example, you are an auditor in my company. This is my company. Okay, this is my company. And you are the auditor, right? And you as the auditor, remember I told you you are the investigator and you have found some fraud happening, right? And somebody has decided to now fire you. I don't know for what reason. Maybe they are involved in the fraud. I don't know. But they've decided to remove you. So now you have a voice as an auditor. You have a very loud voice. You can say, no, you will not fire me because this reason. And that's what the textbook says. The auditor can state why they should not be removed as auditor. Right? So again, this is a level of power you have as an auditor. So number one, you can be removed if there are questions. If there are questions about your abilities to continue, number one. Number two is what? You get a notice period. And if applicable, you have the right to explain why you should not be removed. Right? So this is about removing the auditor. Right? This is if you are fired as the auditor. Next is if you want to resign. So again, we are doing audit and assurance. So before we get into before I start teaching you how to actually audit, how to actually investigate, how to actually examine. Again, Babin, I don't know if you are understanding because you missed the previous classes. But here, before we actually start teaching you how to audit, how to examine financial statements, I'm just telling you basics. Who will hire you? How can you be removed? And how can you resign if required? Right? Now, when it comes to any ordinary job, say there is a waiter, okay, and that waiter is having some or the other problems. I don't know what is the problems, but he has some or the other problems with the restaurant manager. I don't know what is it, what the problem is, I don't know. But in a normal job, when there is any difficulty for you to work for whatever reason, generally you might choose to resign. And as an auditor, also, you have that freedom, right? So, in practice, if at all the auditor and management find it difficult, find it hard to work together, you are not able to do your work properly for whatever reason, okay, and it is difficult for you to work with that company, that client is giving you a hard time, then you can choose to resign. You have the right for it. And again, why do I keep saying auditor is a powerful person? He will give a written notice about the circumstances to the owners. What do I mean by that? Is say, for example, this is the owner or the shareholder. Okay. This is the company. The director has prepared the financial statements. This is the company. Director has prepared the financial statements, and they have prepared, these are the financial statements. And as I mentioned, who hires the auditor? Normally, it is the shareholders that hire the auditor. And the shareholder will be used to go and examine the financial statements. Okay. So the the auditor will go and examine the financial statements and check if they are true and fair. But say in your work, maybe the management is coming and creating a lot of problems. They are creating too many problems for you, too many issues they are creating for you. They are not letting you do your work properly. Then you can choose to resign. And you are powerful. You will not resign silently. Remember, I told you, as an auditor, you have a loud voice. You have the right to give a written statement. Okay, this is the reason why I have resigned. So if the director was creating problems for you, you can mention that they were not allowing me to do my work properly, or they were not cooperating with me, or whatever the reason is. Right? So that is what we are trying to see here. Again, resigning as the auditor, even when you do resign, you will, what will you do? You have the right to give a written notice that this is the reason, this is the circumstance, this is why I am resigning. Okay, so make a note of that. Okay, so when you are resigning, if you have reasons, say it is difficult for you, it is difficult for you to work with the management, normally the auditor resigns. However, the auditor, you have a loud voice. Please ensure you are always on mute, everybody. As an auditor, you have a loud voice. What do I mean by that? While resigning, you have the right to give a written notice about your resignation. Obviously, you give a notice saying I'm resigning now, and explain the circumstances before resigning. So if the directors were creating problem for you, you have the right to explain those circumstances before you resign. So this is some power you have. So again, this is one reason why you should probably enjoy being an auditor, because you are in a position of power. Okay, make a note of this. Let me continue. Moving on. If at all, before your term, you have been, either you have resigned or you have been removed. Before term, if you have resigned or if you have been removed, you will notify it to the ACCA. Now again, this is in terms of auditor and in when you are appointed as an auditor, right? So it is not in all roles that you are required to notify the ACCA. But if you had a client for whom you were providing audit services, say you are giving a reasonable assurance to somebody, you are appointed for a reasonable assurance engagement and you were removed or you resigned before the term, then you must notify the ACCA. Okay, that is what about notifying ACCA. So the first thing we've looked at today is removing the auditor. The next thing we saw is resigning as the auditor. And of course, resigning as the auditor and notifying ACCA. In both cases, you will notify ACCA. In both cases, you must notify ACCA. Now, again, before we teach you about how to audit financial statements, we are looking at what are some of your responsibilities and what are some of your rights. Okay. Number one, again, why did I say auditor is somebody who is a powerful person? Remember, you are an inspector. You are a corporate inspector. So remember, inspector is somebody who people have to be careful from. You have power, right? So as an inspector, the company cannot tell you no to give you any information, right? The company's books and records, you have the right to look at it at any reasonable time. They cannot tell you no. This is your right as the inspector. See, for example, if there's a crime scene somewhere, inspector goes. Inspector has the right to go to a house and say, there is something that has happened here. I want proof. I want evidence. I want this. I want that. I want to see this paper. I want to see that thing. You have the right. They cannot tell you no. Same way, auditor, you are an inspector. You have the right to look at the records, at the financial statements of the company at any reasonable point of time. And not just that. Remember, you are an inspector. As an inspector, you have the right to interrogate. What does the inspector do? He interrogates. Interrogates means what? Questions. Where were you? You know, when a crime scene happens, the inspector interrogates. Interrogates in simple English. What does interrogate mean? Questioning, basically. Right? So what is interrogate? Interrogate is to ask a lot of questions over a period of time. Basically, you are asking questions. Right? Again, guys, please don't randomly point out things from the textbook and say, explain it. I will explain when the right time comes. This is something clearance from auditors. This is something we will look at. So please wait. The syllabus is not over. Right? Now, interrogates is what? Questions. You as the auditor have the right to question and get explanation, satisfactory explanation. Management cannot tell you, no, I will not explain to you. Mind your own business. No, you are the inspector. You are somebody powerful and you have all the right to get the explanations, right? So auditor is somebody who you have the right, remember, know your rights. You have the right to question and receive explanations from the management on what is what. Right? And it is also your right. Remember, in some, in some cultures, sometimes old people, they will kind of, if you don't invite them, some people.
It's 6 o'clock.
They'll get angry. Say there's a get together, there's a party, there's an event. And if you don't invite them, they'll get angry. Right? Which I don't think they should. I mean, if they wanted to invite, they would have invited. If they are not inviting you, meaning they don't want to. So I don't think you should take it to heart. I don't think you need to get offended about it. But as an auditor, you have the right, to get invitation to AGMs, annual general meeting, and any general meetings, of the company. This is your right. And if you are not called, here you can officially get angry. You have the permission. So that is why become an auditor and get angry if you are not invited to a meeting. No need to get angry if some friend does not invite you. Ignore them. Become an auditor. Once you become an auditor, you have the right to be invited to general meetings. And if you are not invited, then you can be angry. So the auditor, it is his right to be invited. The auditor has the right to be invited to general meetings of the company. And not just that you are invited, there you have the right to speak. Remember, I told you, auditor is somebody who has a loud voice. In the meeting, they cannot tell you to be quiet. If you have a point, you can say it. If you have a question, you can ask it. So it is your right to be heard in these meetings, wherever in matters that relate to the audit. So if, sometimes in some groups, in friends groups, in family groups, you say something, then somebody tells you, you be quiet. Right? Once you become the auditor, people cannot tell you that. That's why you need to become the auditor. Once you become the auditor and you go for a general meeting, people cannot tell you to be quiet. It is your right to be heard, to ask questions, and to make statements that are relevant to you. Okay? So this is your right. It is something which, as an auditor, you can and should expect. So 4 points we've seen in the rights of the auditor. Make a note. Next is, auditor has the right to receive written resolutions of the company. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by auditor has right to get written resolutions? These are official decisions. New Year, what is New Year's resolution? Here, this is a decision, a firm decision that you will do something, correct? So a written resolution is an official decision that the company has made. And as the auditor, you have the right to know what these decisions are and receive copies of these written decisions. So it is your right to know to be informed about official decisions made. So they cannot tell you, no, it is our internal matter. No, you have the right. You are the inspector. You have to know what are some important decisions made and receive copies of the written, basically receive written copies of it. So these are your rights as the auditor, guys. Right? And that is not all. Your rights as the auditor are just starting. These are your rights when you are appointed, when you are in office. In office means when you are still in the position of the auditor, these are your rights. Then, while resignation also you have some rights. Again, what I will say is an auditor is an inspector and he is a powerful person, and that's why you should do auditing. Right? When you are resigning, you don't need to resign silently. Again, remember, auditor is somebody with a loud voice. You don't need to resign silently. If somebody was creating problems for you, if somebody was not allowing you to do your work properly, and because of that you are resigning, or if somebody was not giving you proper information and because of that you are resigning, it is your right to explain, to get a chance to explain why you are resigning. You don't need to resign silently. It is your right, and everybody will listen to you. So if somebody was creating a problem while resigning, you can mention. To get a chance to explain why you are resigning, it is your right. So here again, please don't ask me what is point number 2. It's the same thing. So what I'm explaining is what you need. For example, if I skip this point, it is meaning the same thing. Not only will you explain it in a meeting, here you are explaining in a meeting in point 1. Point 2 is the same thing, but have it circulated. The written notice is circulated to everybody. So first one is in a meeting live, face to face, where you are explaining. And second is the written notice. You can have that notice circulated to everybody. But both points are telling the same thing. You have the right to explain why you are resigning. So again, an auditor is somebody who is very powerful. Zahirul Islam, is this clear? Ashmeet, is this clear?
Yes.
So again, we looked at what? We looked at here, auditor's rights in office and at the time of resignation. So again, guys, before you attend the class on Wednesday, I think the next audit class is on Wednesday, if I'm not wrong. When is it? Is it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? Just confirm. When is your class? Yes, Wednesday. So before I see you on Wednesday, you need to know what are your rights. If you don't know your rights, don't attend AA class. Before you do something, you need to know your rights. Without that, no need to do audit. Because what's the point? What kind of auditor will you become? An auditor who doesn't know his rights? No need to do auditing. No need to do procedures of audit. No need to do investigation. Before getting into it, you need to know your rights. But having said that, knowing our rights is not enough. Sometimes we all talk about our rights. Oh, this is my right. That is my right. This I should get. That I should get. But you also need to know your responsibility. Rights come with responsibility. The more responsibility, the more rights. Right? You don't get rights for free. Rights come when you also have some responsibility. So you as the auditor need to know, I've already told you what are your rights, but you need to know what are your responsibilities as an auditor. What are the responsibilities? I will draw and explain. Fardeen, Kubaidullah, please make sure that if you are attending the live class, you are on time, because otherwise you will suffer. What do I mean by you will suffer? It means that You will miss out, and if you will not understand what I'm doing now. What I'm doing now is auditor's responsibilities. What do I mean by auditor's responsibilities? What is your responsibility? This is you in red. You are the auditor. The auditor's responsibility is he has to go to the client. You have to go to your client, and the client has prepared some financial statements. What is the examiner's responsibility, guys? Suppose this is your question paper. I'm putting it as QP, and this is the examiner. Excuse me. What is the examiner's responsibility? He has to open the question paper and check it. And remember, auditor is also an examiner. So just like your examiner will check your question paper, auditor is also an examiner whose responsibility is to examine the financial statements, audit the financial statements. Remember, in the first class, I told you audit means examine. So, your responsibility, remember, you are also nothing but just an examiner. You are an inspector. So, your job is to inspect or examine the financial statements of the client. And after you have examined, after you have audited, you will give your opinion. Remember, I told you that you will give assurance. So, after you have checked, it is your responsibility. You can't just check and leave. For example, I'll tell you one real story that happened with me. One of my friends needed an urgent surgery, and he was not conscious means unconscious. So it was a serious situation. Unconscious. He's lying on the bed, hospital bed. Okay. Doctor's job is what? To go and examine my friend, correct? So the first job is to examine or audit the friend. Audit, inspect his situation, inspect the condition. But what this wonderful doctor did, after going and checking my friend, he said, I will do a surgery on him. This is real, I'm telling you. He said, I will do a surgery now. I said, what? Why will you do a surgery? What happened? I asked him, what happened to my friend? Why are you doing surgery? You know what the doctor told me? I don't know what kind of an idiotic doctor he was. But he's telling me, this is between patient and doctor. I cannot tell it to you. I said, okay, boss, it is between patient and doctor, but the patient is unconscious. So how will you discuss with him? You are telling between patient and doctor, no problem, but patient is not awake, no? So you can do any surgery you want. You will remove his kidney. No, it is your responsibility to tell it to friends, family, explain what the situation is. And based on that, once they give their permission, only then you can do the surgery. He's not a rat, no? That he will come and then you will dissect him and do some surgery. So, as a doctor, not only will you check, not only will you inspect, after checking and inspecting, you have to give your opinion. You cannot just do your surgery like that. You have to give your opinion that this is the situation. This is what I think you should do. I think you should do a surgery. That is what the doctor should say. Doctor cannot just start go and do the surgery. Same way with the auditor. Once you have checked the financial statements, once you have inspected the financial statements, the shareholders want to hear you. Remember, I told you shareholders will hire you. They are the ones who appointed you. So after checking the financial statements, it is your responsibility to go to the shareholders and give your opinion on the financial statements, because they have hired you for that only. No? They have hired you for your opinion. Same way, when you go to the doctor, why do you go to the doctor? To take his opinion. So the shareholders also have hired you to take your opinion. So first thing, you will audit the financial statements, and after auditing the financial statements, your responsibility is to give your opinion to the shareholders on whether the financial statements are true and fair. So I'm going to remove this drawing. But auditor's responsibility or duty of the auditor is, number one, to audit the financial statements. Audit means examine the financial statements. And once that is over, it is your duty to give your opinion on whether the financial statements are true and fair. And you might have to also confirm, that financial statements have been prepared properly. Now, this could be in compliance with the law. You might have to check the financial. So that's why I always tell this to my students. Knowing the law, in fact, my own tutor in Dubai mentioned this. An auditor who also knows the law, it's a deadly combination. This my tutor told. Because there is a lot of law that you will also have to know. For example, if you want to check the financial statements of a client, your client is a doctor. I'm just giving you an example. You need to know what laws apply to a medical center. Without that, how will you check it? How will you examine? Right? So you might also have to confirm that the financial statements have been prepared in accordance with, in compliance with all the requirements, legal requirements. These are the responsibilities of the auditor, which is what we have on my index. Now we're going to look at a few bodies that are shaping the accounting profession. Remember, when we do ACCA, what are we becoming? ACCA is basically professional accountants. So by doing ACCA, you are becoming a professional accountant. Audit is one of the things you can do as a professional accountant. What is ACCA? ACCA is a professional accountant. So there is accountant, maybe with your BCom, you can become just an accountant. But with ACCA, you become what? A professional accountant. Because it's a professional accounting body. So we are basically accountants. We're all basically accountants. Now, because we're in the field of accounting, we need to know all the bodies that are shaping our profession. Right? For example, as a doctor, there is something known as MCI, Medical Council of India. As a doctor, he needs to know what are the bodies that kind of govern, what kind of shape, and what are the bodies that are related to them. Same way as an auditor, as a professional, or not accountant, auditor, as a professional accountant, there would be certain bodies, there would be certain organizations that are relevant to you, that are related to you. Just like for an MBBS doctor, to him, an MCI, Medical Council of India, again, the ones outside India, you might have your own medical council, right? But you need to know what bodies, what organizations are working in your field, because it is very relevant to you what they are doing, what they are suggesting, what rules they are asking you to follow. So, as a professional accountant, you need to know specifically about the International Federation of Accountants, which is an organization for us accountants. So, IFAC is an organization for who? For us. And as the name suggests, it is an international organization. It is not restricted to a specific country. It is not that, oh, it is in India, or oh, it is in Nepal, or oh, it is in Bangladesh. No, it is an international organization. For who? For us, for professional accountants. And this organization basically ensures quality in the field of accounting. They are worried. They are basically, they want the accountancy profession to be having people's confidence. We want to make sure that people believe in us. The public believes in professional accountants, like this doctor, for example. If we have doctors like that, nobody will believe in the field of medicine. Nobody, I mean, unfortunately, and I don't know if it's only me, but I've faced doctors who are cartoons. And because of these people, confidence itself in the field of medicine is going. Now, anybody I ask, they say, please stay away from doctors. It's best for you. Even if you go to one doctor, go to another doctor and take his opinion also. If that, go and take 2, 3 opinions. Why? Because now people are scared to go to doctors. First thing they will say, oh, do a surgery or do this test, do that test. Why? It's all money. So we don't want people's confidence in our profession of accounting to go down. Right? And that's why IFAC keeps certain minimum requirements to enter and stay in the accountancy profession. For example, to do your ACCA, you have to clear 13 papers. What else do you have to do? You need 36 months of experience in a relevant field. And a couple of other things as well. After that is when you get ACCA membership. So this ensures what? Quality. Right? So we've looked at what the International Federation of Accountants is. As an accountant, you need to know what are the organizations that are relevant to you. Okay. Make a note of it. Guys, we have to complete this chapter today and move to the third chapter, because remember, syllabus completion is also as important as understanding the concepts. The next thing we're going to look at is ISAs. Again, these are not to be confused with IAS. IAS is International Accounting Standards, something that you will learn in the FR paper. Here, we are learning standards on auditing. So remember, I told you, okay, fine. You people did not do FR with me. But what are international standards on auditing? Guys, tell me one thing. While doing the audit and assurance paper, what if I give you one friend? Throughout this paper, this friend will be there for you. He will guide you on how to do the audit procedures, how to do the investigation procedures. He will tell you step by step. He will be there for you. He will give you guidance step by step. He will tell you, do this, do that procedure, do this investigation, do that investigation. Every guidance he will give you when you're doing auditing. Do you want a friend like this, guys? Yes or no? Do you want a friend like this? Yes or no? Zahirul Islam, you don't want this friend. He will help you throughout, give you guidance throughout. Anil Yadav. This friend is your ISA. So ISA is what? This is basically a friend. Right? This friend will guide you. ISA is a professional guidance which you as a auditor can follow to make sure that you are doing your work properly. So ISA is a guidance. Zahirul Islam, I was asking if you would want a friend like this. I've typed it on my screen. So you would definitely want a friend like this who will help you in audit and assurance, who will help you in this paper, who will guide you. That friend is ISA. So as I have highlighted, ISA are basically professional guidance for who? For you, the auditor, on how to do audits, what to do, what procedures to follow. Remember, ISA is a guidance, it's not law. It is not law. Every country will have its own local law. ISA is like a friend. Remember, is your friend the law? A friend who is helping you in cooking, is it the law? No, it's just guidance. You understand? So ISAs are professional guidance. ISAs are international standards on auditing. It's like a friendly guidance, friendly introduction to ISA I've done today. It's a professional guidance that the auditor gets while performing audit. What to do, what not to do. Remember, it's a guidance. This is not a legal requirement. It's a guidance. You understand? The legal requirement will get preference and must be obeyed. So for example, who will you prioritize first? Legal requirement or guidance? Definitely you have to prioritize legal requirement first, and that is what the textbook is saying. If a country has a law which does not agree with the ISA, you will follow the law, because the law is something that you cannot not follow. Law is something that has to be followed. Guidance you can take, you cannot take. It's a choice. But law, if you don't follow law, you are in trouble. So whenever there's a discrepancy between the legal requirement and guidance, basically when there's a discrepancy between the legal requirement and ISA, you have to follow the law. You will give priority to law. Right? And that is what this page is talking about. I hope I have properly introduced to you the ISA. Just you need to know this is professional guidance that the auditor gets while performing the audit. Point number one, this is not a legal requirement. The legal requirements must be obeyed at all times. This is ISA is just a guidance. Where is this friend coming from? Like you have friends. One friend is coming from Nigeria. One friend is coming from Somalia. One friend is coming from Dubai. Where is this friend coming from? Where is ISA coming from? Which family is it coming from? It comes from the ISA is developed and comes from the IAASB. What is the full form? This is a board basically. The International Audit and Assurance Standards Board. Just like your friend comes from a certain family, your friend comes from a certain country, that family has developed your friend, correct? Same way, this friend, ISA, was also developed by who? It was developed by the IAASB, International Audit and Assurance Standards Board. So you need to know from where your friends are coming. You need to know who developed your friends. I'm sure all of you know something about where your friends come from, their background, where are they coming from, who developed them. You know this, who raised them, where were they raised. You know this basics. Same way, ISA is also a friend, and there is no exception to the ISA. You need to know from where it is coming, who is developing the ISA, and it is developed by International Audit and Assurance Standards Board. Okay. Again, this is a little bit about the exam. There are currently 37 ISAs, blah, blah, blah. Although not all are examinable for the syllabus. A list of examinable documents is available on the ACCA website. You need not learn the names or numbers of the ISAs, but you need to know and be able to apply the key principles. So again, here in this paper, I will not teach you IAS this, IAS number this explains this, IAS number that, like how you had learned in FR. I'll not do that here. You just need to know how to do the auditing, and with that, that page is over. So with that, the basic friendly introduction to ISA is done. Now, some more information. So once first you get introduced to a friend, after you get introduced to a friend, you understand that friend in more detail. So in point number 7, we will digging deeper into ISAs. First was the friendly introduction. I told you this is a friend. This friend is coming from this family. It comes from IAASB. It's guidance, but you will always follow law. I told that. Point number 7 is basically digging deeper into the ISAs. Right? Now, ISAs are as I told, these are international standards on audit. So ISAs are, again, digging deeper into ISA, these are guidance for audit of financial statements. What is it for? It is guidance for audit of financial statements. But it may also be used to audit other financial information. So actually, the purpose is to audit financial statements, to give guidance on auditing of financial statements, but it may be used as guidance to audit other financial information. Now, what that other financial information is, we will look at shortly. But all you need to know for now is audit IS itself is there to give you guidance on audit of financial statements. But ISAs may also be used to audit other financial information. And they must be applied in all circumstances except circumstances which are exceptional. Say, for example, there is a legal requirement that does not say the same thing as ISA. ISA says one thing, legal requirement says another thing. For example, your teacher says one thing, teacher guides you. Teacher guides, but the requirement by the legal, now again, in case of ACCA, I wouldn't say legal requirement, but the main legal by law, the requirement would be, by the rule is teacher guides and then there are rules, correct? Teacher would say, okay, take your time, book your exam once you write the mock exam. Book your main exam once you write the mock exam. This is the teacher's guidance. You have to take the teacher's guidance. Unless the law is disobeyed. What do I mean by that? If the guidance goes against the law, then you will not take the guidance. For example, it says that you have to book your exam. When June exam, you will book most likely by end of April. So, but the rule is that the exam needs to be booked before end of April. That's the rule. You have to follow it no matter what your teacher guides. Right? So ISAs must be applied in all but exceptional circumstances where, say, for example, there is a legal requirement to abandon the ISA. Right? And again, as I said, these are support for you. It's basically giving you basic principles that you will follow. As simple as that. Contains basic principles that you must follow. That will help you. Okay, so that is digging deeper into ISA. Now, how does an ISA come into existence? It's not like one fine day, one person will wake up and say, from today onwards, this is one new ISA that needs to be followed. No. First of all, development of an ISA, it starts as a discussion. First thing, you don't just wake up one certain day and say, from today onwards, this is the ISA. No, we will start talking, we will discuss. Right? Discussions will happen. Debates will happen. And this is not a short process. This is a lengthy process. So I will talk, you will talk, I will say something, you will say something. It's a lengthy process. Right? After that, like for example, in my team, okay, generally, before sending any message in the group, they show the draft to me. They show the rough version, the draft basically before sharing it. They show me the draft. This is what we have drafted. Can we share? This, once I approve only, is shared in the group. So for a group itself, if that is something that is happening, I say also once discussions have happened, a draft is issued which is accessible to the public. The public's comments are open. So it's not like 4 or 5 people sit and make the ISA. No. Once the discussions are over, we share the draft with the public. There are so many stakeholders who will be affected by ISAs. The companies, the auditors, shareholders. So there's no, it doesn't make sense to just make the ISA and say from tomorrow onwards, this is the ISA. The public will have the chance to pass their comments on it. And based on public comment, the draft may also be revised. For example, going back to my team, when they make a draft, maybe sometimes I make a comment and say, you make this, you fix this, you change that message. Based on that, they revise it and send it to you. Same way, when we collect the public comment, the exposure draft may be revised, and after that, also it will not be issued. After that, remember the IAASB? Remember, IAASB is the family from where ISA is coming, just like you need to know from which family your friend is coming. It's like, again, probably it may not happen in adult life, but as children, if you want to go out, if you want your friend to come out of the house, to come out of his house, his parents must approve it. Same way here in adult life, in your professional life, your friend is ISA. If you want this ISA to come out, ISAs are only released once their parent, no, not literally parent, but the board from where ISA is coming. Remember, it was IAASB. They have to approve the ISA to be released. Right? So that is what is it that you have to know and remember. Right? So approval of IAASB members is required for ISA to come out. Just like approval of your parent, of your friend's parents is important for your friend to come out. Now I feel online, the ones attending live, I don't know how many of you are students. I think many are working professionals. But students will be able to relate to this more. Parents need to approve for the friend to come out. Same way, the board of ISA is IAASB, and the IAASB needs to approve the ISA for the ISA to be released. At least 2/3 of the members needs to approve it. Right? So make a note of this, please. So development of ISA is also done. Now, before again, guys, we are finishing this chapter almost, and we are moving to the third chapter. Here, we're going to look at relationship between international and national standard setters. What do I mean by this? Go back to the IFAC. I told you that this is an international organization, correct? For the accountancy profession, yes? Do you think countries also will have their own local bodies to oversee all this? Yes or no? Countries locally, do you think they will have their own bodies to oversee, say, accounting, to oversee the profession, to oversee? Would countries have their own local bodies? Vineet says yes. Ashmeet, what do you say? Yes, right? Same way, again, you need to understand that yes, IFAC is the international body, the international organization, but we also have local bodies that set standards nationally. So yes, we have the IFAC. No doubt, it is an international body, it is an international organization, but we also have local standard setters in the countries individually. Right? So now it is about, yes, having an international body, but also we need to know that there are local standard setters as well. National, within each country, there will be certain standard setters. And remember, IFAC is an international organization. And remember, under it is the IAASB, and IAASB makes the ISAs. But it does not have any legal standing in individual countries. It does not have any legal standing in individual countries. For, nationally, we need to ensure that we have our own local standards. So national setups standards either may develop their own auditing standards, or they may implement ISAs after modifying them to suit national needs. For example, either I can give you guidance, or you can make your own study plan. So either you can make your own study plan, which is what this is, may develop their own auditing standards, individual countries, or you can follow my guidance. You follow my guidance after adjusting it with your schedule. So either you can make your own study plan, or you follow my guidance after adjusting it with your schedule. And that is what national standard setters do. Either they make their own account auditing standards, or they will follow the ISAs. So now this is from country to country, it will vary. But because we are doing a course from the UK, we're just taking the UK as an example, which I will not take now. I want you to do a research on this and check what are the bodies, the national bodies, standard setting bodies in the UK. And again, there's no need to research also. It's there in the paragraph. But I want you to study on this. In the UK, what bodies are responsible for setting the auditing standards? However, what you need to know is very simple. You need to basically know that either countries can follow their own guidance, basically follow their own standards, or they just follow the ISAs. And again, each country, depending on your interest, say, remember, this is something which is, you depending on your, say, you have an interest in a certain country, say in Singapore. Figure out how is it in Singapore? What are the standards that they will use there? Because remember, this is something that needs to really, there's no point just understanding concepts. You need to know, yes, you need to understand concepts. That's very important. But you need to know how things will apply to you, how things will be related to you in the real world. Again, remember, don't study. I mentioned this in the FM batch also. Don't study to pass. Study to gain knowledge. You need to know. And once you've gained knowledge, passing is a byproduct. Okay, so again, but in UK, what is it? What the situation is, you can definitely read. In the UK, the FRC is the national regulator for us. When I say us, I mean accounting professionals. FRC, Financial Reporting Council. You can just make a note of this. Within the FRC, under the FRC, just like remember, internationally, you have the IFAC, and under the IFAC, you have the IAASB. See, under the IFAC, you have the IAASB, and IAASB comes with the ISAs. Same way in the UK, within the FRC, we have the Audit and Actuarial Regulation Division, which is responsible for the development of the audit standards. So IFAC is international, but nationally in the UK, what do you have? You have the FRC. Then internationally under the IFAC, there is the IAASB. The national equivalent of that in the UK is what? Audit Regulation Division within the UK. So it is equivalent, the national equivalent of the IAASB in the UK is this division, which is responsible for the development of the audit standards. So IAASB prepares the ISAs. Here, this Audit and Actuarial Regulation Division will prepare the audit standards. So again, you don't need to be confused. This is international. On the left-hand side, we have international. And on the right-hand side, we have the national. National, which country? UK. Right? So this is something that you can go through, have a read, and see if there is any problem. Again, before, okay guys, it's 6:55, meaning that it is the break time now. Because as you know, as we've seen here, sharp 6:55 is the break. So come back by 7:05. This is the timetable that we will follow. 7:05 to 8:20, we will have the second round. Yes, guys. So it is 7:05 p.m. sharp. Yes, Zohairul Islam. See how it works is basically 6:55 to 7:05 every class. There will be a break, and we follow, as I keep saying, we follow these strict rules where we follow the time very properly. Because I know, where I have been with in other places, other institutes. I know on a break, sometimes break goes for 20 minutes also. Sometimes it will extend for 30 minutes. Sometimes the class will end fast. I don't want all that. So that's why I follow the strict timings, that this is the exact time that we will follow. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to look at, again, as I said, we have to finish the second chapter and move to the next chapter. And today, now in this section of the class, we're going to look at the role of professional bodies. Professional bodies like who? For example, the ACCA is a professional body. Right? Can anybody think of other professional bodies? And let me know. Yes. So again, ICAI, Institute of Chartered Accountants. Of India, right? This is also a professional body, and the professional bodies itself has a role of quality. Why does ACCA have 13 papers? Why is passing the exam not so easy? You have to do the textbook, you have to do the Kaplan kit, BPP kit, study hub practice questions, you have chapter-wise quizzes on the study hub, you have technical articles, you have examiners reports. Finally, for quick revision, you have flashcards, also known as pass cards. So rigorous. Your exams itself are they're not easy exams. Okay, I have to agree with you. They're not very simple exams. Why? Purposely, the exams are demanding. Demanding exams. Why? To ensure that only quality people clear and becomes ACCA. If it's easy, everybody will clear. No? Everybody will clear ACCA. Everybody will become ACCA. So, what do professional bodies want? Professional bodies want quality, and that's why the papers itself are demanding, such that it needs a certain level of competence to clear. This is to ensure quality. Ensures quality of ACCA members. Okay. Another example could be what? You need in ACCA, what do you need? You need 36 months of work experience. To obtain, it must be written somewhere here. Yes, see, to get the membership, you need to successfully complete the exams. This is how ACCA maintains quality. Again, 36 months. And then ethics module, right? So this is something that professional bodies purposely do, right? Again, professional bodies also, give expertise, technical expertise to governments on accounting and business matters. So ACCA has a role in that also. And the members itself, we will see in the coming chapter that when it comes to ethics, when it comes to ethical values, again, I don't want to talk about that in too much detail, because this is something I think we can do the fourth chapter after this. So that ethics is covered, because we mentioned ethics. So I think it will make sense to go to ethics and look at what it is and what it is saying. Right? But what am I trying to say is ACCA gives guidance to its members, right? What to do, how to do. If you are in a situation where, for example, you are in a situation where you have to know that somebody in your company is involved in fraud, you can actually contact ACCA and ask ACCA for guidance. I don't know how many of you knew that. So ACCA, the professional body itself, will have demanding exams. The qualification itself will be very demanding. Demanding exams, extensive experience requirements, right? This is taken by professional bodies. Why? To ensure quality. And these professional bodies don't leave you alone. After you become a member, they support the members throughout their journey. Right? You keep paying every year, right? Your membership fees, subscription fees you pay. Right? So throughout, ACCA will be supporting you and also gives tips, guidance, and expertise, insights to governments. And of course, this is saying consequences of a specific member not following all the rules of the professional body. You might, as a worst case scenario, your membership might be withdrawn. Of course, smaller punishments could be fines, penalties, and so on. But I've here mentioned the worst case scenario, your membership could be withdrawn after so much hard work and effort. So make sure that you are complying with all the rules. Okay. So chapter 2 is over. Now, again, we have class for another 1 hour and 7 minutes to be precise. Now, what we're going to look at is, I'm not sure if I should just do ethics or if I should complete this chapter, because this chapter is a little bit dry compared to ethics. And last second half, I wouldn't want to start corporate governance because of how dry it is. So I think I'll complete the fourth chapter today before we close. And on Wednesday, we will go to the third chapter. And this chapter is on ethics. Ethics, brief introduction. Before I even open the textbook, in school, there was a story that I remember from school. And the story is, there was a woodcutter. He is cutting a tree. And he is very poor. He has an old axe. While he is cutting the tree, now I don't know how many of you remember this. This was in school. But while he is cutting the tree, his axe falls into the river. Does anybody know this story? After that, what happens? Anyone knows this story? Yes or no? Yes, beneath nose. His axe falls into the river. And after his axe falls into the river, he is very sad because he's a very poor man. So obviously, he cannot afford another axe. So he is very sad. He's sitting next to the tree, and from the river fairy comes. From the river fairy comes. And she asks, "What happened? Why are you sad?" So he says, "My axe fell into the river." So she says, "Okay, wait 2 minutes. I will go and get it." So she goes into the river and she comes with a golden axe. And she asks, "Is this your axe?" Now, the poor woodcutter, he is honest. And he says, "No, this is not my, even though it is a golden axe, he is still honest. He's saying, "No, that is not my axe." So the river fairy goes again into the river and asks, "Bring the silver axe this time." She asks, "Is this your axe?" So again, the woodcutter says, "No, so that is not my axe." Third time, again, the river fairy goes into the river and she brings his old poor axe. And she asks, "Is this your axe?" The woodcutter becomes very happy. He says, "Yes." Love to hear this. Yeah. So, "Yes, this is my axe." He jumps out of joy. Right? So, river fairy notices that he is very honest. So, as a reward, what the river fairy does is she gives him all the three axes. So, what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is you have to be honest. You need to have the right moral principles. Right? And in this chapter, if you have understood this story, to a great extent, you know what this chapter is about. Being ethical, doing the right thing, doing what is morally correct. For example, again, it's not related to audit, but is it okay? Say there is no specific law. There is no law that tells you that I cannot pay you a very low salary, but I have hired, say, Sunil, and I'm paying Sunil very, very low and making him work 24 hours. This may not be illegal because, okay, as I mentioned, I gave you the clue. There is no law, but it is not right morally. Ethics talks about ethics is not teaching you law. Remember, that's why I'm doing this chapter second. Previous chapter was talking about rules. This chapter is not talking about rules. This chapter is not talking about the law. This chapter is talking about what is morally right and wrong, the sense of right and wrong. And ethics is what? Ethics is a way which is morally is moral is what is morally is moral principles basically. Ethics is moral principles. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't behave in an unprofessional way, right? So ethics is basically moral principles, as simple as that. I don't know if anybody else would want to elaborate on that. I don't know if you, because this is something which we've, I think, done in FR also. I don't know if another faculty would want to elaborate on this, but ethics is basically moral principles, a sense of right and wrong. That is all. You don't need to make your life so difficult. And in this chapter, we're going to look at all of this. Code of ethics included, ACCA Code of Ethics, IFAC Code of Ethics, fundamental principles, safeguards, all of this. right? Now again, we're going to look at a rules-based approach and a principles-based approach. Again, remember, you will be in a good position to understand this because the previous chapter was on rules. This chapter is on principles. But before I teach you, again, that's why I said, if I am skipping something, please realize and understand that I will come back to it. I have handled a very, very good number of students and a very, very good number of batches now, right? I've been teaching from almost 10 years. So if I am skipping something, it means I will definitely come back to that. But before I show you the difference between principles-based approach and rules-based approach, it will help if you in detail understand what is the principles-based approach. I told you ethics is moral principles. But that's it. Now the textbook is directly showing the difference. I don't want to do that. You need to, in and out, know what is a principles-based approach, and then it is good to look at the difference. Okay, so as of now, I'm going to skip this. I'll come back to this once this chapter is over, and once you know what is principles-based approach. Rules, rules is basically following the law. We saw that in the previous chapter. There are certain rules. When can you hire the auditor? Who hires, who appoints, who removes? Rules are there. But principles-based, we will look at in detail. Again, we are talking about spirit of the code, but you don't know the code. So what is the point of explaining to you the spirit of the code? You need to know the spirit, the code itself, to explain to you what is the spirit of the code. That's why, again, sometimes I don't follow the textbook order because I feel that it could be better ordered. It could have been in a better order. Personally, that is what I feel. Again, see here, they haven't explained to you the code, but they're telling you to apply the spirit of the code. How? Right? So what I will do is first explain the fundamental principles. ACCA Code of Ethics, what are they? Once that is over, then we will go back and look at the code. How many of you I have explained this to you in any class, in any demo? No, right? I didn't explain this. So, ACCA Code of Ethics, because this is briefly mentioned in tax paper also. In chapter 2 or 3, it's briefly mentioned. But what do I mean by Code of Ethics here? Fundamental principles that we are trying to teach you. What are they? Remember, ACCA wants you to live by 5 principles. Personally in your house, maybe your father is telling you, always live by these principles. For example, somebody told me, never borrow, never ask from anybody. You do your work. Don't go and ask others for any help. Don't go and ask others for anything. Now, this is a principle that I follow. So, maybe in your house, in your family, some elder might have told you certain principles that they want you to live by. So, ACCA also has told you to remember 5 principles, and remember, people kind of learn and forget. It is very disheartening to see it. They've done FR, but they don't know the Code of Ethics. They've done tax, they don't know. They've done BT, they don't know. It's very sad because this is not a specific topic in one paper. This is ACCA's Code of Ethics. This you need to know as an ACCA student. You can never forget it. So it's not restricted to AA here. Right? And I will show you the textbook because this is something that it's so simple that people don't understand it. Sometimes when something is too simple, people feel it's too good to be true and they don't understand and they find that to be difficult. So I'll explain everything with an analogy, and that's why I've closed the text. These principles you can remember with by remembering the acronym PICOP, where each letter stands for a specific principle. First one, let me ask you one thing. Okay? In FinChartered Academy, now again, I'm the founder, co-founder of FinChartered Academy, and also one of the faculties. We're based in Chennai, India. And I don't know how many of you have the, just a little bit off topic, but I don't know how many of you have the hotline number. Let me just check the group if it is shared. Yes, the hotline number is shared. So I don't know. Again, if you are in India, no need to put +91. If you're not in India, obviously you have to put +9. Now again, it has been shared. The hotline number has been shared. But again, we are an institute here. We have faculties and all that. Suppose I have a problem with a faculty member here in FinChartered. Suppose this is me, and this is another faculty in FinChartered, and I have a problem with this faculty. So is it okay? Now the faculty is outside. In fact, sometime before they smiled at me and went. Okay. So we have a glass door, and people outside the classroom can see me. They just smiled at me and went. So if the faculty has a problem, I have a problem, some disagreement, some dispute is there. If this faculty enters the class, can I throw the chair on them? I have a problem with the faculty, so I'm angrily throwing the chair at the other faculty. Can I do this? Is it okay? I don't know, maybe students will get some little bit of entertainment, but is it right to do? No. I'm throwing the duster, I'm throwing the remote, AC remote, duster I don't have. AC remote I'm throwing. We have a big screen here where we show the offline students the screen. Sure, Zahrul Islam, that's fine, no problem. Okay. Please catch up. Yeah, thank you. Bye. So I'm throwing what I'm throwing? The AC remote. This is not right. I have to behave in a manner that suits my profession. I have to behave in a way that does not spoil the image of my profession. And that is something ACCA wants you to always remember. Keep your behavior professional. Don't do anything that will spoil the name of your profession. Don't avoid anything, any conduct, any behavior that gives a bad name to your ACCA qualification, that gives a bad name to your profession. ACCA wants you to remember this forever. This is one of the principles ACCA wants you to know and remember for life. You need to have and maintain a behavior that will not discredit your profession. Never do that. That is the first P. Then comes I. Now, I simply means honesty. You have to be honest in what you do. You need to be straightforward and honest. That's it. Then comes what? Confidentiality. Suppose I tell you a secret. Should you go and tell it to others? I've told you a secret. Will you go and tell it to everybody? No, you will not tell it to anyone. So confidential means sometimes things that should not be disclosed. Confidential is things that should not be disclosed. And as an ACCA body itself wants you to remember this. Whenever you have been entrusted with confidential information, whether in your career, whether in your personal life, never disclose it. Remember this. In your personal life, professional life, whatever information has been entrusted with you, if any what is confidential? Things that should not be disclosed. So if anybody comes and entrusts you, what do I mean by entrust you? They are trusting you and telling you that. So whenever somebody comes and entrusts you with confidential information, you need to keep it a secret. You should not be disclosing it. Don't disclose confidential information. Now again, there are people who come and ask me some questions that I find a little funny, but because you people ask me, I have to answer. Oh, okay, there is confidential information. For example, a recipe. If you are a restaurant, the recipe is confidential. But what if FSSAI, the Food Safety and Security Authority of India, or whichever country you are in, the regulatory authority comes and asks you to give their information, then what will you do? And obviously common sense, no? If a regulatory authority is coming and asking you, you will have to disclose. I'm saying, when I say keep it confidential, don't go and tell it to competitors, don't go and tell it to customers. But obviously, if a regulatory body is asking you for confidential information, it is your duty to disclose. Right? So confidential information is information that must not be disclosed unless required by a regulatory authority or something. Next comes objectivity. What do I mean by objectivity? Say I have Mark and I have John. John is my relative, but Mark is more qualified. So I hire who? I hire John. Is this right? I'm hiring John because John is my relative. What do you people feel? Is this right? Sorry, if I hire John, is it right? I'm just hiring him because he's my relative, but he's less qualified than Mark. Is it okay? What do you people feel quickly? Not okay. So because I am biased, you should not be biased. Right? So ACCA always tells you to have objectivity. Objectivity means never be biased. ACCA is telling you this, not transparent. We're talking about not being biased. Don't be biased. Don't be partial. Another example is, I remember in grade 12, when I was in 12th standard, one of my teachers, she will never clear my doubts, never. But from her village, from her city, if somebody is there, now obviously I wouldn't want to mention the city or the state, but if somebody is from her state, not only will she clear the doubts, I'm not joking. She had actually given some important questions. I'm putting it in inverted commas because they were basically leaked questions. So under the pretext of giving important questions, she leaked some questions. So to some people, she is not even clearing doubts because they are not from her state. And for some people, in pretext of giving important questions, she is leaking the question. Again, obviously, leaking the question itself is very bad, but she is biased. She is partial. ACCA does not you to be biased, to be partial, to be influenced by something, right? That is what objectivity is. ACCA is telling you, please, 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 never be biased, never be partial. Okay. And the last one is this. Now, this is my favorite one because it has some examples in common sense. Imagine this is a hospital and this is Mr. Rakesh. I don't know, somebody. Rakesh. Mr. Rakesh needs an open heart surgery. He needs a surgery. And guys, I just wanted to let you know that after this class at 8:30 p.m. Indian time, this class will get over, correct? After 8:30, I am free. I don't have any other class. I am free. I'm available. So because I am free, I have time. I was thinking I'll go and do Rakesh surgery. I'll go and I have time. No? So I'll go and do his surgery. I'll give it a try. No? Let's see. We will see our luck. Can I do this surgery? No. Why? What is your problem? I have time. I'm available. He needs a surgery done. So why I can't do the surgery? What is the reason I cannot do a surgery? The reason is very simple. The reason is yes, not unless you have that call. I don't have the competence, professional ability to do an open heart surgery. So ACCA tells you that you must maintain professional competence. Professional competence is what? The professional ability. You need to ensure that you have the professional ability for your job, capability. Keep yourself updated, know what is the latest requirements. You need to be competent. You cannot go out of competence. You cannot become enable. So ACCA wants you to have professional competence. Now, anyway, coming back to this surgery, because I'm not doing the surgery because you are telling me that I should not do it. So that's why I have decided to cancel the plan. I'm not going and doing the surgery. But Dr. Mohan is a heart specialist. Can Dr. Mohan go and do the surgery? He's a heart specialist. Can Dr. Mohan go and do the surgery? Yes or no? Yes. But the problem is, Dr. Mohan is having this in his ears. He's having headphones in his ears. He's listening to songs. See, headphones are connected. He's nicely listening to songs and doing the surgery. And in between, he's also chatting with his girlfriend. He's listening to songs, nicely chatting, and he's doing the surgery. Is this okay? Can I be playing chess while I'm teaching you? I have one friend. One friend is waiting outside. They want me to play chess. Can I play chess? No. Even if you have the professional competence, ACCA wants you to do it carefully, do it diligently, do it with due care. Even if you have, so as a doctor, Dr. Mohan needs to do it very carefully with full attention, diligently. ACCA wants you to remember that even if you have professional competence, you also need to deliver it with due care. That's why point number 5 is professional competence and due care. Having the knowledge and capability alone is not enough. You need to also have the, you also need to do the work very carefully. So professional competence is where you have the professional capability. Due care is doing the work very carefully and diligently with full attention, with full focus and attention. And these are, guys, 5 things that ACCA, 5 principles that ACCA never wants you to forget. Always remember this. Always. Let's now go back. Now that we have looked at the code of ethics, see this? This is what I have explained. Now that you have understood the principles that ACCA is teaching you, remember, principles, this is not rule. This is just certain values ACCA wants you to have. So remember, rules is basically law, but principles is not law. It is just some values, right? So, for example, how will I explain the difference between law and principles? See, in some families, again, I don't know if you're working professionals or students, but this might be more relevant to students. And even if you are a working professional, I'm sure you haven't, you are still in an age where at least you remember or you can relate, right? In some homes, in some families, there are rules. Rules like what? Okay, you should not go out after 8 o'clock. It's a rule. So this is a law. This is a rule. This is on paper. They have told you you cannot disobey this. But in some homes or in some cases, nobody tells you something as a rule. Instead, the way they tell you is, they don't tell you this is the rule. Instead, they give you certain values and say, remember these few things always. For example, going back to my example, when I was told never to ask help from anybody, this was not a rule. You understand? This was a value that was given. This was a principle. So that's what is the difference between rule and principle. Rule is something which is written on paper. It needs to be followed. It is a law. It is legislation. It's a regulation. But principles are values that are you absorb, that you take in. And for that reason, ACCA doesn't tell you anything, okay, this is the rule, this is what you have to follow. No. ACCA follows a principles-based approach. You understand? ACCA gives you principles. ACCA never gives you rules. Right? And now that you've understood the difference between rules and principles-based approach, it will be helpful to look at the difference between principles-based approach and rules-based approach. Remember this. Now, this is very easy. So I'll show you from the textbook. Principles isn't a written law. These are just certain like values that you will follow. So because it's not like a written law, it is more easily applied to new situations. It is more easily applied to new situations because ACCA wants you to just remember your ethics, just remember your principles and do whatever is right. Principles-based approach says to remember the code of ethics and do the right thing. They are not telling you this is the rule, that is the rule. They're just telling you remember the code of ethics and do the right thing. So if there is a new situation or an unusual circumstance, all you have to do is look at what is the best thing to do. What is the ethical thing to do? And do that. But when it comes to rules-based approach, if it's a new situation, you don't know what is the rule. Should I take left? Should I take right? You don't know. Why? Because you have to follow rules. You understand? In rules-based approach, when it's a situation that you know what is the rule. But if it's a new situation, you don't know which rule to follow, so you don't know what to do. So I hope this point which I have highlighted is clear. And sometimes laws are not applicable, or for certain things, laws may not be there. So there you can apply principles. And as I said, here you see, you know your principles and you do the best thing to do. So you have to use your own common sense to decide what is the right thing to do. So you have to use your own judgment. See, it's not a rule book. This you should do. No. Here you have to use your own judgment and decide what is the best thing to do. So the accountant is expected to use his own understanding, his own judgment, his own professional, professional judgment. So principles-based approach requires the accountant to use professional judgment. Although I'm not typing it, I'm explaining all the points, guys. So please make sure you're taking down lecture notes. And as I said over here, where was it? Spirit of the code, right? So remember, you will apply the spirit of the code. You have to follow it. So never lie. Always be honest. Always have professional competence and due care. You have to follow it with the spirit of the code. It's not a written rule. Okay. That is a principles-based approach. Sometimes, yes, you might incorporate certain rules, but a principles-based approach is where you've been told what are the codes, the code of ethics, and now you have to apply that. It's not a written law. But rules-based approach has its own advantages. Why? Is because the law is written. You just have to obey. So it's easier to follow because it's clearly mentioned what to do. You just have to follow it. But the problem with law is you will not have a law for each and every situation. Correct? Like nobody is sitting and making law. If this happens, do this. If this happens, do this. Yes, for most of the situations, they will try to create the law. But for it's not possible to have a rule for each and every situation. Therefore, it's impossible to be able to deal with every situations that will arise because you will not have rules for each and every situation. And you have to interpret the law. See, the law is written, you have to read it and understand it. And obviously, because it is a written law, written rules, these need to be updated to ensure that we apply to latest situations. What do I mean by that? Maybe 20 years ago, in an exam hall, you were not allowed to carry what? Chits. Right? 30 years ago, you were not allowed to carry chits. Now nobody will want to take chits also. How many things you will write, how many chits you will take. So now you want to ensure that you don't take some kind of a mobile, some kind of a device. So rules change as per the situation. So rules need to be constantly updated. So I've explained all these points here. Okay, both rules based and principles based approach. Have a read. Let me know if there's a problem anywhere. Two more minutes. Guys, can we continue? Yes. So now, spirit of guidance. See, ACCA itself has given you certain principles. It has guided you with certain principles. Right? It is telling you, remember, never ever be biased. Always ensure that you are doing your work diligently. That spirit, you need to kind of imbibe, you need to kind of absorb into yourself. You need to follow it. So again, it's not a rule, but you have to kind of implement it. That is what it says, compliance with the spirit, because it's not a rule. So that's why it's not saying that you have to comply with the rule, because it's not a rule, but it's a spirit. It's what is it? It is like a kind of a, like a, what would the other word be? Spirit is the best word, but it is basically a kind of a thing that we want to do it, right? And you will absorb it into yourself. Yes, to imbibe those guidelines, to imbibe that guidance, the entire spirit, the entire, you know, that entire motivation, you take it into yourself. Okay, can we move to consequences now? Because ideally, I would want to finish at least 5 to 6 chapters in this week itself to ensure that we are on track. Here in this, all these are easy chapters, remember. I don't know how are you finding AA, is it easy or difficult? But remember, all these chapters that we are doing now are easy chapters. We will look at things where, we are going to look at substantive procedures, for example. Substantive procedures is definitely substantive. So you need to be comfortable with these easy chapters first before I dive into that. So April month, we will spend quite a lot of time in that. And also just to let you know in advance, most likely next Monday, due to the government holiday, I think due to Eid, we will not have a class. Right? So we have to ensure that we're finishing as much as possible on time. And remember, we will also be uploading exam kit practice questions on the LMS from the coming week onwards. Right? Why? Because I don't want anybody to wait for the syllabus to be over to solve exam kit questions. No. You must, by hook or crook, make sure that you start the exam kit practice today itself. Not today, meaning, yeah, today also if you start, good. So we will, from the coming week onwards itself, start uploading content to the LMS. Beneath it is mentioned in the group, but if you want, I can have it shared in the group again, how to access that. Okay. Anybody is out of India here? Not in India?
I am.
Babin, you are outside India? Beneath is also
Yes, I
outside.
am from Nepal.
You are from Nepal. Babin is from. Oh, okay. So I think only Ashmit is from India. Ashmit, you're from India? Yeah. So I think whoever was there, I think even Jabril Islam is not from. Okay, anyway. So now we're looking at consequences. See, ACCA is like a nice parent. They're coming politely in a nice way, teaching you values, teaching you principles, telling you, remember all this always. Always make sure that you are having professional behavior. Never do anything that will spoil the name of your profession. So ACCA is like a good parent, coming and showing you values, coming and giving you guidance. But if you don't follow, ACCA will take the action. You can, again, this is very simple, but if you are caught failing to comply with the code of ethics. So remember, that's why I said this chapter itself, it's very sad when people have finished FR, they finished FM, they finished tax, and then they don't know the code of ethics. This is not something related to one specific paper. This is something you need to remember for life as an ACCA member, because ACCA is, nobody will call you from ACCA and tell you, hey, this is the code of ethics that you should follow. No, obviously they are teaching you in the papers. And you need to know this forever, because if you don't follow it, if you don't have the spirit of following these code of ethics and principles, then ACCA will discipline you by teaching you a lesson, teach you a lesson by probably giving you fines, probably suspending your membership. Once you finish and get the membership, you get this certificate that says in order of the seal, you get this paper, right? Certificate. They might suspend your membership and in worst case scenario, withdraw your membership. So all of your hard work, all this time that you're spending for studying, writing exams, doing exam kits, watching the exam kit videos uploaded, watching the technical articles videos, all of that. So remember, that's why it's important. If you don't know these code of ethics, how will you follow it? So remember, this chapter might be easy, but it is very important. Okay. So with that, we've covered this. Again, illustration 1, just to quickly walk through. A member was found guilty of misconduct because they signed the auditor's report without conducting any auditor contrary to the fundamental principle of integrity. I mean, you need to be honest, you need to make sure that you are straightforward. A member was found guilty of misconduct because they failed to advise a client to have an audit when audit was required by law, contrary to the fundamental principle of professional competence. So again, you need to have the capability, you need to be able to guide properly, right? So you can have a look at this. A member was found guilty of misconduct because they lost possession of a client's books and records to a third party. So your personal books, personal as in the company books records, it was found with somebody else. So again, I have breached confidentiality here. And remember, ACCA can take disciplinary action, which is why you need to, without fail, know these code of ethics. Suspending your membership, exclusion from ACCA, a fine, order to pay cost, publication of the result of the decision and the member. Oh my God, this is going to be extreme. Along with your name, publishing that this action has been taken against you, which can be obviously career-wise, it will definitely impact and very, very humiliating. Publication of the results of the decision and the member's name in the press. Horrible. And that's why I don't understand how people who have completed other papers come to me without knowing code of ethics. I don't know how. I really don't know. I'm speechless. If whatever paper you've done before this, you should have been told emphasize that the code of ethics are very, very important because the actions ACCA can take, if you are not following, if you're not complying, are horrible. So remember, please don't forget this. Obviously, you will not by heart it, but you need to know this. Without which there is no point. No need to do audit and assurance paper if you don't know this. First, you know this. Then we will talk about going and investigating other people. First, you need to investigate yourself. Right? So remember, this is a very serious, grave topic that you need to know and not only know very well. Anyway, with that, I think enough of that. Next is threats and safeguards. I will explain this to you with the help of an analogy. When you go on a bike, is there any danger? Is there any danger to you when you go on a bike?
Yes.
What is the danger? Accident. There's a danger of accident. So, how do you minimize the consequences of an accident? You know that there is a danger, there is a threat of an accident. So, how will you minimize the impact of it? What safeguard? I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know English. I don't know ACCA. I don't know what is threats and safeguards. How, if I'm going on a bike, how will I minimize the danger? There is a danger of accident, but how will I minimize the impact of the accident? Following traffic rules. I followed the traffic rules. Still somebody came and crashed. Then I want one answer, one specific answer. Will you wear anything when you go on a bike? Helmet. You'll wear a helmet. So a helmet is a kind of a, yes, there is a danger, I know that. But to minimize that danger, avoid that from happening, there is a kind of something that will protect me, something that will guard me and keep me safe. And that thing is a safeguard, something that will guard me and keep me safe. Safeguard. So a helmet is a safeguard. Right? So now that you've understood danger, what the danger is and what would the safeguard be, remember danger is also can also be known as threat, and there are various threats that can threaten your ethics. Remember, I told you to be ethical. I told you to do the right thing. I told you never to uh, steal. I told you to be honest. I told you that you will definitely now. Suddenly, I cannot remember the codes, but I know the codes. Professional behavior. You need to behave professionally. You need to have the honesty. You need to make sure that whatever should not be disclosed is not disclosed. I told you all this, but there are dangers to all these points that I said. Right? Remember, again, I don't like the order. Just like how I had completed this first and then went to this to explain things to you, same way over here, I will first complete because you don't know the threats. I want you to tell you what the threats are and then tell you what is the process. Right? So, what is a threat? A threat is any danger to ethics. And a safeguard is an action, is a guard, is a kind of something that will either reduce the threat or eliminate it to an acceptable level. You go in a car, again, there's a danger of an accident, but the safeguard is a seat belt. Right? One of the classes I said you go in the car and there's a threat of accident. So there also somebody said the safeguard is the helmet. Okay. So again, I don't know. You have to listen very carefully. I don't just say the same thing. Helmet, and don't sit with a helmet in a car. Right. So safeguard is something that either reduces or prevents a threat. And here we're going to look at all the types of threats. And that is something that I would like to not start now because technically we have only 10 minutes of class. And this is a lot. I mean, this is something that I will complete in the next class. Because there's and again, Babin, remember you told me about that one specific topic, clearance. You asked me what is clearance. I said syllabus is not over. Remember, if there's a topic that I not touched on. It is going to come in a lot of detail in another topic, right? Here we will talk in too much detail about clearance. What is clearance? Once you have understood that, we can go back to chapter 2 and look at that one small sentence. So here we will talk about clearance, which is in chapter 4, I think this chapter. But again, unfortunately, I would not want to start because we technically have 9 minutes left. So I'll just kind of talk about what is there on the first page. As I said, practitioners need to behave and be seen to behave in an ethical way that does not spoil the name of their profession. What is independence? Independence means this. Again, in simple language, if you write an exam and the investigator or the examiner is your friend is not independent because he is connected to you. Can I rely on your friend's correction? If he corrects your paper, he is your best friend. Will I trust your friend's correction? Can I believe his correction? What do you feel? You wrote the exam, your friend corrected it. Can I believe the marks?
No.
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 Because
That will be familiarity.
Yes. Because what? Again, he is somebody who is having a relationship with you. And his objectivity will be compromised. He will now be biased. He will try to give you extra marks because he is your friend. So, as an auditor, you need to be somebody who is independent. You cannot go and audit your father's company because you are not independent. You will be biased. And if you're biased, there will be no objectivity. So, independent means to be completely not connected to the client. Being completely free from a relationship with the client, being completely free from circumstances in the client space. Because if you have a relationship with the client, or if you are affected by the situations in the company of the client, you will not be objective. Your objectivity will be compromised or impaired. So you are independent only when you are completely free from any personal relationships with the client. So this is something very important. An auditor will be somebody who is completely independent, completely unrelated to the client. Because if he is related in any way or has any benefit from the client, he will not be a good examiner. He will not be a good inspector. Why? Because he will be biased. And that is what independence means. Okay, IFAC through the IESBA, we will look at that shortly, has issued a code of ethics, as has the ACCA. The ACCA code of ethics is covered in this chapter. We've already looked at that. However, both of these codes have the same roots and basically the objective is the same. That's why in this chapter, we're specifically focusing on the ACCA's code of ethics. Right? Remember, we are teaching you certain principles. We're telling you what are the threats to those principles, and we're telling you what are the safeguards against those principles. And that is what we have over here. Right? That's it. Right? So these are some basic things that you need to know for sure, 200%. You need to definitely, again, it's a lot of application. There's no mugging up as such. So we are in the 4th chapter, but technically it is the 3rd chapter for us. Wednesday, we will be completing, I will try my best to complete the 4th chapter and move to the 3rd chapter. So that before the end of March, we have completed, we are in the 5th chapter. Okay. Now, is there anything I can add somewhere? Going back to the 2nd chapter. Explain 3 rights that enable auditors to carry out their duties. Can anybody tell me any rights of the auditor?
Right to attend general meetings.
Yes, very good. Then,
Right to have all the access to the books of accounts.
yes, very good. Books and records. One more maybe.
Right to have written resolution whenever not have attend the meeting.
Okay. And right to be probably heard in these meetings. Very good, Asmit. Right to be heard in these meetings. Very good, Bhavin. Okay, now test your understanding. Which of the following people? Okay, now this I think is something that you need to know from the 3rd chapter and able to answer it. In order to answer it. So all this we've covered. Okay, so IFAC, International Federation of Accountants, IFAC Code of Ethics, and then we have the IAASB, which is the International Audit and Assurance Standards Board that comes out with the ISAs, the International Standards on Auditing, and International Standard on Quality Control. Again, we will look at what quality control, what are international standards on quality control. Maybe not in too much detail, but we will definitely re-mention this somewhere. And then coming to deal promptly with requests for clearance from new auditors. Again, we will look at this as you saw in the 4th chapter. It is there in a lot of detail, step by step, how to deal promptly with clearance from a new auditor. This is something that we will for sure look at on Wednesday. Designing as the auditor, who hires the auditor, who can work as the auditor, who needs an audit, legal requirements. We've seen legal requirements, which companies need to do audit, who is exempt from doing audits, who can do audit, who cannot do audit. Remember, who can do audit? Anybody who is a member of these supervisory bodies or is authorized by the state, and who may not be working as an audit. Again, remember today, just 1 minute back, I said, if you have a personal connection with the client, say the client is your father, then your independence is compromised. You are not independent. And for that reason, you are not allowed by law to audit maybe your father's company. Because again, independence is compromised. That is why you are excluded by law. Even though you are in ACCA, you cannot audit those financial statements. Right? So again, guys, it is 8:20 Indian time, which marks the end of the class. The last 10 minutes is a review where I will show you the index. You will go through the things that have been covered today. Today is the 24th of March. Let me know if how much your rating is out of 5. And of course, go through it before giving your rating out. This is time for you to literally study. Right? So our classes are structured in a way that not only do you understand things, but you also have time to study. So review it, recap it, see how everything is. If there's something you did not understand, you will put your rating as less than 5. But if you have understood it, then you will obviously put a rating of 5 above. So go through it. These 10 minutes are specifically for that.